Think we'll get started. Good morning, everybody. My name is Chris Flanagan. I'm the Executive Officer of the Home Builders and Remodelers Association of Cape Cod. I welcome you to our Residential Construction Career Day. I am pumped for today's event because we have an all-star lineup for you this morning. Just a few things before we get started. One, please keep yourself muted through the duration of the meeting unless we're taking questions live. Two, if you ask a question, please feel free to use the chat feature if you can, and please provide your name and your school so that we know where to send you a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card. So we are very excited, and with that, I will turn it over to Sam Fonseca.
Thank you, Chris. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Residential Construction Career Day. The MassHire Cape and Islands Workforce Board is thrilled to once again be partnering with the Home Builders Remodelers Association of Cape Cod to offer this event to high school students on Cape Cod. Residential Construction Career Day has become a premier event within the region and is designated and designed to expose students to the construction industry through a series of hands-on workshops. Despite not being able to host an in-person event this year, we felt it was important to continue to expose students, educators, as well as parents and guardians, as this event will be recorded and posted for future viewing. So as you all know, the construction industry is a priority sector within the region, often offering both year-round and self-sustaining wages. Today, you'll hear from a variety of employers within the industry and how they have succeeded within the sector, some of whom own their own businesses and others represent companies within the region. I would like to thank the Residential Construction Career Day Committee and Chris Flanagan and all of our academic partners who have supported this event. It gives me great pleasure also to introduce you to Chris Lambton. Chris is born and raised on Cape Cod and lives here with his family. He also hosts a landscaper. He's also a host and landscaper on many HGTV shows, some of which you may know, such as Yard Crashers, Going Yard, and Lawn and Order. Each of these shows highlight Chris's landscaping skills and gardening expertise. His new show, Clipped, comes out next month on HGTV, so be sure to check that out. When Chris is not doing TV, he helps run his family's landscaping business, Lambton Landscaping. And prior to that, Chris was also a teacher and varsity boys basketball coach at New York City's High School of Economics and Finance. He also holds a degree from Providence College, where he used to run track. Chris is very involved with Compassionate Care ALS as a result of his mom's fight with multiple system atrophy. Every summer, Chris runs the Falmouth Road Race to help raise money for them. So it is without further ado that I introduce our keynote speaker of our event today, Chris Lambton.
Thank you for asking me to be a part of the Residential Construction Career Day. Chris, thanks for inviting me. Samantha, thank you for the great introduction. I appreciate it. And everyone joining today, I saw the list of speakers today, and you're going to be very lucky to hear from people that are successful and have become great leaders in their fields. I can tell you what we all have in common, though, and that's work ethic. I want you all to understand that in order for them and myself to get where we are today, it was a lot of hard work and sometimes some not so glamorous jobs along the way. But some things I want you to focus on today throughout all the speakers is their hard work that got them to where they are today, connections they've made and how it helped them advance in their fields, the impact of community in their lives and business, and how no one ever stops learning, even if it's after high school, college, whenever. Hard work. You may have an idea what it is. You know, for landscaping, when I do long hours, lots of sweat. If you're my dad, sometimes you bleed a little on every job. Connections. Whoever you meet, from the coffee barista to your landscaper like myself, to your waitress, to your teacher, treat them with respect, because you never know when that person will come back into your life. And every connection you make along the way is a vitally important one. And community. It's so important to not only grow your business in your community, but also to grow your family and friends in it. It's important to give back in your community and help out others in it. That's what makes your community and your business stronger. Learning. Every person you meet along the way, you should learn something from. Never, ever stop learning. That's one of my favorite parts about the job. Whenever I go to a new job or a new place, I learn from the people I work with, the people I come in contact with, the homeowners. And every day I learn something new, and it makes it great. So now, as for me and my variety of jobs, My dad was a landscaper. He started a landscape company when I was little. I'm one of 3 boys, so he's a very smart guy. He figured he had free labor for the next 30 years of his life, and he was right. So every summer, every school vacation, my brothers and I would work for him, and he never paid us. He always said, you know what you're going to do is you're going to learn, and that's worth more than money, which he may be right. Don't tell him I said that, but I learned a lot from my dad. And he taught me everything I know about landscaping. So it was a very good summer job at a New York City public school. So all you teachers out there, I applaud what you're doing, especially right now. I don't know how you're doing it in this virtual world. Teaching is hard enough in person, but throw some computers around, it makes it even harder. I did come back and help take over my landscaping company with my brother, and I still run it to this day. But I got an opportunity to try out for an HGTV show. I got an email and I was asked to go to Sacramento, which is oddly enough the capital of California. I didn't have much info on it except that I needed to fly at 8:30 in the morning from Logan, go and do this on-air tryout at a TV show. So I went. It was kind of a tough thing to do because you leave your comfort zone at Cape Cod, you leave your comfort zone of the East Coast, take a big step by going out there. It went well because they offered me a TV show. So I got to tape a TV show right here on Cape Cod called Going Yard. And the great thing about it was I got to have my brothers and my dad in it. My lead carpenter was one of the groomsmen from my wedding who went to DY. Like if you watch Going Yard, you'll see about 25 guys and girls from DY in that show constantly. So it's great to show off Cape Cod, show off all the skilled labor that we have here on Cape Cod as well. The next 2 shows I did, I had to travel all around the country, which was fun. I went everywhere from Seattle to San Diego to Florida to right back here on Cape Cod. Whenever I can do a show on Cape Cod, I try to do it because I love where I live and I love to get to show it off. But it's not too glamorous as well, because when you're traveling, you're in lots of different hotel rooms, you're in airports, it's long hours. Every now and again you wake up in the morning, I'm like, wait, which city I'm in right now? I don't even know. But I got lucky. I got to tape over 100 TV shows. I never thought I'd have even one. So it's so much fun. But each show, it has their own difficulties. Show Yard Crashers, you'd have to redo an entire backyard in 2 days. In regular landscaping, which is what I'm going to do later today, to redo a backyard, it takes weeks. So this show, you start at 7 a.m. And I work until midnight, 1 a.m. You have the lights up. There's no sick days, no half days. It's raining, or if it's 110 degrees, you're still out there working because there's a deadline. So it teaches you really good work ethic. But you know what? It was fun. When you're on TV shows, some of the perks are you get something called crafty, which means that there's this table set up with all kinds of food and snacks throughout the day because they want to keep you on a sugar high for 2 days straight to make sure they're getting all they can out of you when you're working. So when you're in the TV world, it's not easy to get into. So you learn to not say no to every opportunity. When they offer you something, you say yes, you jump right in, you work as hard as you can because there's people gunning for your job every single step along the way. So it teaches you to work hard, show up early, always have a good attitude, and to love what you do, because if you don't, it shows. So even today, when I go to work later today and I start laying a patio, I love what I do because I get to work with my dad, my brother, put on the radio, listen to some music. And to me, it's not work. It's you're outside, you're having fun, you're making money at the same time. And you know what? You're getting a little workout in as well, lifting those stones. So that's the really good thing about it. So also with TV, the perks are that wherever I travel to, I got to refine my landscape design and planting skills. I learn continually from people all across the United States. Everywhere you go, there's different plants that grow well there. There's different materials they use. So I learned all of that info, and I get to bring it back here to Cape Cod, to my landscaping company, and bring it into what I do on a daily basis. The other good thing about traveling is you get to go to places that I'd never, ever imagined I'd go to. I did a show in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. I never heard of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, but it's one of the most beautiful lakes I've ever been to, right in the middle of Idaho. Beautiful spot. I got to go to tree houses in Oregon and Delaware and Florida and explored tree houses with some strange people that love nothing more than tree houses. But you know what? It's a great experience. So I would never have gone there if it wasn't for this work, but it's the most fun part is you get to meet new people, travel to new places. So I appreciate you all listening to what I have to say, and more importantly, for inviting me to speak this morning. I know that you're going to have a wonderful day to learn from all these incredible people. If you have any questions about my TV landscaping or my teaching career, or regular landscaping for that matter, I'd be happy to answer any and all questions that you may have. Gail O'Rourke, you love tree houses too? Oh man, I got to go to, so one of the tree houses I went to was in Southern Oregon, right near the California border. They had 14 tree houses there, and they had like rope bridges going from one to another. It was almost like, I'm a Star Wars fan, it was almost like going to the Ewok village. And people would rent out the tree houses like an Airbnb style. I mean, some of them had electricity, but there was by no means running water. I'm not sure where the toilets were. I didn't even want to ask those kind of strange questions, but it was so cool. You're 100 feet up in a tree, and there's like a nice little bed and stuff, and the trees swaying a little bit. It was a pretty unique place. Another tree house I went to was at Dogfish Head, which is a beer company. And they actually had a steampunk metal treehouse right in the middle of their property that he had some artisans put together, and had everything from a pulley system to bring drinks up into the treehouse, had lights. It was a pretty neat treehouse. So that was one of my favorite jobs I got to do, is explore treehouses. So all right, so start asking questions, because then you get a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card, which now Gail gets one. And she's gonna have to share, that's two small coffees, I think. So Gail, first coffee's on you. I appreciate that.
Any questions for Chris? Chris, since we have you here, can you tell us a little bit more about the behind the scenes as it relates to the construction industry and actually being filmed, because we don't normally get access to someone like you. So could you tell us a little bit more about your work and how it relates to the field?
Sure. So a little behind the scenes of how it works. So if you've been to an actual construction site, there's people moving, there's machines, there's noises, and then what you throw into the mix when you're doing TVs, you throw into the mix a cameraman, a camerawoman, somebody who has an audio with like a boom mic, which is just like a big stick with a microphone on it. You have lighting, you have people running around making sure that everyone looks okay for camera. So there's a lot of moving parts when it goes into making a TV show. And this isn't like a network TV show or a Netflix TV show. This is HGTV or DOI. So they try to make it, pretty natural. But you're trying to mix the construction aspect and trying to get things done in order to the TV show that's trying to tell a story. So if you like telling stories, and if you like kind of the behind the scenes of what's going on TV, I mean, working on an outdoor landscaping show or any type of renovation show, it's pretty amazing what goes into it. Because you watch like a Property Brothers show or Chip and Joanna, their show. It's the background of trying to get everything ready and lined up for those 2 or 3 days of taping. Because when you're trying to do a landscape project, you have to line up the stone deliveries, you have to line up the permitting process, getting the concrete mix, getting all the labor in. So you're mixing all of that with a lot of moving parts. And the head producer who's trying to weave all this together is really a magician, trying to manage the construction aspect with the TV aspect. And at the end of the day, you need the backyard or the house to come out beautiful, because that's the before and after photos. And then at the same time, you need the video to not be too loud with jackhammering or machines, and you need to have the audience follow along with the story. So you're trying to mix 2 different things at once, and it's definitely a difficult thing to do. But at the end of the day, it comes out with an amazing TV show sometimes, not all the time. What's the coolest new technology you've discovered through your career? Karen, great question. I actually get to be on HGTV's smart home. So in the smart homes, they always do like super cool technology where you set your house up with your phone, and as you walk into a room, the lights go on. So it's like you're in like Star Trek or something. As you walk through a room, the lights go on as they follow you. So that's a really cool technology. Another one is we did a bedroom where at 7 a.m. all the shades would go up, the music would go on to like some classical music, and then the shower would turn on and get to the optimum temperature for you. So it's like your whole house was like gently waking you up in the morning. And I got real envious of that because, you know, in my bedroom, I usually have a 4-year-old who jumps on me and screams to wake me up in the morning, which is not as subtle as having you know, a radio go on with some classical music and the shower going to 102 degrees or whatever your temperature is for a shower. Was it a big sacrifice traveling and leaving your family to film? Hunter, excellent question. Yeah, so when I was taping Yard Crashers, every other week I would fly someplace for 2 years. And that was very difficult because, you know, on a Sunday night, I would get on a plane and fly to, I don't know, Seattle, let's say. And I'd go to Seattle for the week, do 2 shows. So I'd work Monday, Tuesday on 1 show, Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, another show, fly home Saturday, have that next week off, and then fly to, I don't know, wherever the next place would be, St. Louis, let's say. So it was difficult, but with any job, whether it be a TV job or a landscaping job, or if you're in the military, you make sacrifices, you know, for your family and to work. You know, and if, you know, any job has its pluses and minuses. With TV, you know, the minus is you're traveling, you know, 26 weeks a year. But if you're a consultant, let's say, you're traveling Monday through Thursday just as well, to going to different places to be a consultant. So, you know, you kind of have to weigh, you know, is it right for you? Is it right for your family? Would I want to do that for the rest of my life? No, I could never travel every other week, especially, you know, that my kids are getting bigger. I would never want to leave that much, you know, ever again. So it worked out well that, you know, my daughter was 1 at a time. My son was -3. He wasn't even there yet. So I got to do it at a time when it actually worked out pretty well for me in my life. The show I just finished taping, I was gone for October, but I was in upstate New York. So I wasn't that far away. I could drive there and drive back on the weekends. So it actually worked out pretty well. I didn't have to jump on a plane and fly and, you know, be 3 time zones away, and, you know, and not get to talk to the kids or see the kids every day, you know, even through Zoom. So it was kind of a sacrifice. How did you figure out that you wanted to be a landscaper? Abby, great question. So one of my first jobs was I worked for the town of Dennis as a DPW, and I had to mow lawns and clean up the beaches and plant things. And I just loved getting my hands dirty. I loved being outside in the sun. And then with my dad being a landscaper, I got to work with my dad, and being your own boss, I think is amazing. Because you know what? It's 9 o'clock right now, and I'm still in my bedroom talking to you guys. I don't have to say, oh, I need to come in an hour late for work today because I want to do this. So granted, I'm not getting paid for this hour, but still, you know, I get to make my own hours. So I like that part of it. So I always knew I loved being outside. I have my own garden. I love gardening, and it's just something I'm passionate about. And every day that I go to work, it doesn't feel like work to me. So that tells me that I chose the right career.
Chris, you have been doing a great job, and we actually, because we have a full lineup, that will probably be your last question. But if anyone asked a question in the chat, we'll either try and get you an answer, and you'll definitely get a Dunkin' Donuts gift card. But Chris, thank you so much for joining us. You were fantastic. And so everyone knows, in his spare time, when he's not filming on television or when he's not working hard in his business, he's also a Dennis selectman. So he's an elected official here locally.
But they let anyone into the Dennis Select Board, you know, so
that's right.
That's not that big of it. Any Chris in Dennis gets automatically elected into the Dennis Select Board.
Ain't that the truth? Thanks for joining us, Chris. You're stellar.
Sure. All right. Thank you all for having me. Good luck today.
Thank you. And next we have Rick Grady with Grady Consulting.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me to speak today. I really enjoyed taking a couple of hours, last day or so, kind of looking back and kind of where I started from and how I got to where I am today. I started actually as a vocational school graduate in 1983 from Silver Lake in Kingston, Massachusetts. I was part of their carpentry program at the time. Being that age and the age of the people that we're speaking with today, I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do at the time. So I also took college prep classes, enrolled in Northeastern University in their civil engineering program. Continued to build things while I was in college because I definitely enjoyed that. I still enjoy that to this day. I learned so much through my carpentry program that most people would think that wouldn't apply necessarily to a civil engineering career. But it's one of the most impactful things that I did towards my civil engineering career. To be able to go onto these job sites, understand what people are trying to build, even from the laborer's standpoint or craftsman's standpoint, it gives me extra insight into what it is I need to draw and what I need to contribute to that. I became a licensed construction supervisor in 1987 while I was still at Northeastern. And actually that's how I paid my way through Northeastern at the time, eventually graduating from Northeastern University with a civil engineering degree in 1988. Even at that time, I wasn't quite sure whether I wanted to be designing as a civil engineer or whether I wanted to be building. I actually enjoyed the building part of it more. So I did both for quite a while, probably 4, 5, 6 years. And much like Chris was saying, yes, a lot of hard work, but what else was I going to do on the weekends? So I would go and build things on the weekends with my younger brothers who were in high school at the time and eventually college, and help them pay their way through school as well. One of probably the most important things that's kind of led to where I am today is to always have a goal ahead of me. It doesn't have to be, and it didn't need to be the goal. It was 30 years ahead of where I was in college. You can't think that far ahead when you're 17, 18, 19 years old, or even at 55 years, I'm still trying to figure out what that next step will be. So all along the way, I've always sort of looked at setting the next goal. Getting out of high school, tackling the college course at Northeastern towards the civil engineering. Let's go for the construction supervisor's license while I'm here is the next goal. What's the licensing look like so that I can actually be a professional engineer once I get out of school? At that point, you look at it and go, okay, well, I need to work 4 years under an engineer. I need to take an exam through the state, whatever state I'm in. It was Massachusetts at the time here, to do what they call an engineering training. That's basically a test of everything that you learned in college that says you have the background to go for licensure at some point. After that 4 years, there'll be another test to become a registered professional engineer. So that was my next goal at that point. And then even along the way there's other things. I learned how much engineering was related to surveying. It's all measurements, it's all points, it's all drawing, things that need to be built. It's working closely with builders and developers and various town boards to get things approved. So I said, well, okay, I'm going to start working towards my surveyor's license too, so that I can add that little piece to the puzzle. All through this, kind of learned that it goes hand in hand with every building project. There's no building project that can take place without a permit, without plans, without a lot of documentation to begin that project and get it off the ground. So much to Chris's point earlier about the education never stopping, I graduated high school 38 years later. I did not know at that time that at 52, 53 years old, I was going to enroll back in school again. So I went part-time online through University of Maine to get the courses that I need to work towards my surveyor's license, which I'm still working on. Don't have to get down that it took 20 years to get here after taking my first surveyor in training exam. And shortly, I hope to be taking the test for licensure as a surveyor as well as an engineer. 22 years ago, 23 years ago now, 1998, decided to venture out and start my own engineering company. It was with a partnership with two of my brothers. And same thing with that. We just kept setting challenges. We never really had a real goal to have a certain number of people. We just started satisfying customers, do a little bit more than was expected. And that's led us in a lot of interesting directions. One of the questions that came up with Chris earlier was the coolest technology. I meant to ask to share my screen at the beginning of this, and then I kind of forgot about that. So if I can share my screen here for a moment, that would be fantastic. And it would be the one that says Rick Grady iPad. No, I'm sorry, Rick Grady PC, not Rick Grady iPad. If we need to set something on the other end. So we got into 3D laser scanning, which is kind of the coolest thing that we've been working with. And that's a very fancy way to take a number of measurements, taking 1 million measurements every second, creating point clouds, using those measurements to produce plans, drawings, models, renderings, all kinds of neat things. I'm still not able to share my screen, but I only have 2 minutes left anyway, so we'll just fill it up.
No problem. We actually have quite a few questions for you, Rick, that are
sure.
coming in while you've been talking.
Okay.
So one of them is, how do you get your contractors or construction supervisor license?
Oh, the Home Builders Association, Remodelers Association of Cape Cod is a great resource on that to kick you off in that direction. Any of those things, you guys have Google at your fingertips today. Go to the Massachusetts website, just type in, how do I become a construction supervisor? How do I get that license? I don't remember what the criteria was. I took that exam in 1987. And at the time, Wentworth was offering a course. That license was fairly new at the time. And just took the course, took the exam, and many years later, I forget the details of it.
Great. Yeah, and I know off the top of my head that you typically now need about 3 years of experience in the field. Sometimes you can either balance that with higher education or just field experience. And then, as you say, Rick, it's still, the process is still the same. You study, you take the exam, and then you get your license afterwards.
At that time, it's funny because I didn't actually work under another construction supervisor. I was off doing projects for homeowners, additions and things along that lines. So I actually had to get some references from people that weren't in the field that I'd been doing the work from, and that was my experience aspect of that particular application.
And then we have another question for you, and then we'll try and see if we can get to the other questions a little later. But one question for you, was it from Thomas Miller, was it difficult to build a construction business from the ground up?
Yes, absolutely. There's no question about it. It was a lot of hours. It was a lot of work. I didn't really think of it as work because I enjoyed it. So I would literally go out and work during the day, and nights and weekends go meet with people or draw up plans or order the stuff for the next day. And it was very small scale, so it was manageable at the time because I was balancing that with college and other things going on as well.
Great. Well, we're at the 9:30 mark. We'll try and see if we can get more questions a little further on in the program, but I would now like to turn it over to Matt York with York Construction, and I believe Matt is with us on site.
Hey guys, I'm Matt York, owner of York Building and Remodeling out of Sandwich. We've been in business for about 12 years. Little background on myself. I was exposed to construction around the age of 13, 14 due to a family friend owning a building business. So I loved being outside. At that point, I just knew I wanted to be outside. I wanted to be hands-on. So I went and worked for a framing contractor. So your framing contractor builds your exterior walls, your interior walls, constructs your roof, installs doors, windows, exterior trim, and typically decks. I believe that framing is the most important part of a house because after that, you're either constructing to it or around the frame. So I worked for that framing company for about 8 years. After the 8 years, I realized I want to build houses from the ground up. I want to see it from the start to the finish. But only being in the framing field, I wasn't confident in some areas or wasn't sure of how things worked. So I went and worked for another builder who taught me those areas, taught me where I needed to be. During that time, in 2006, I got my construction supervisor's license, and it's a lot of work. At that time, I didn't consider it a lot of work because I enjoyed doing what I do. And then after learning all that, I was ready to go on my own. The other thing about the building business, which I love, I think the best part is making someone's dreams come true, building them a house. I love every aspect of it and really the camaraderie. As being a builder, a general contractor, you're working with the foundation guys, the electricians, the plumbers, the framers. So it's really one big family. And I think that's a big part of it and what makes it fun. And obviously you get to meet new people every day. I'm an instant gratification kind of guy. So it's great showing up on a Monday and seeing a hole in the ground and showing up on a Wednesday and seeing a foundation in the ground. It's just a great feeling, and it's something new every single day. So we're here today. That being said, we're here today in Plymouth. We're about 2 months in, and I'm going to take you through some site work, some foundation, some concrete slat work. We have some under slab plumbing to go over, and then we'll get into framing. So what we can do is we can walk right up to the house. The framers started yesterday, and what they're doing is they're laying green plates or pressure treated sills along the top of the foundation. And what goes on top of that are the walls. And the reason for the pressure treated plates are you cannot have regular KD or pine on top of concrete. There has to be a pressure treated material. So we'll walk up right to what's going to be the front door. So what I'm going to do is I can show you guys the plans. And like Rick said, the plans of the permits are what gets us to this step. It's a huge part of it. And if you have a full set of plans, this is everything you need to build a home, is what should be in the complete set of plans. So right now, we're standing right here. So you have your whole first floor, your kitchen, your dining room, your garage, bedroom, and living room. This house happens to have a walkout basement, so the foundation drops in the back. A lot of you at home probably go down into your basement and you see concrete walls along the whole back of your house. This is actually going to be wood framed walls. So they're going to have plenty of windows and doors in it so they can use their basement space as a more livable space to let light in. So you're going to see we're standing right here. We're standing right here, which is their front door. You're going to see a wide wall right here and a bigger foundation wall. This is all masonry. This is going to support their front steps. Also supporting it is these columns that come down. And this is this wall we're right on top of right here. So those columns are supported by the foundation, and we're also supporting that roof. So all said and done, this is what the front of their house is going to look like, the side of the house. And then down here is this whole basement area we just talked about, where there's no concrete wall. So I'm going to talk about the foundation for a little bit. You'll see all these bolts coming up right here. These are called anchor bolts. So we have your green plate or your sill. You're going to have your wall on top of that. And then you're going to put a washer to hold all the walls to the foundation. And that's the first step of framing is the sill plates. You're also going to notice this little, how the foundation comes down. And then there's a little ledge right here. I'm sure many of you have seen houses with a stone on the front. So what they do is they put a stone veneer on the front. It's just decorative. And then this ledge or shelf, they call it, is going to support that stone from sagging. So I can show you that on the plan where the stone is. So I know we're jumping around a little bit. So there's decorative stone, just shows little circles right here where the stone is. So this whole section and there's a front bay right here, gets all that stone. So another thing about this site is that there was actually an existing house here before. So when you came through the front of the house, the front of the yard rather, there was a house in that back corner. So we had to tear down the existing house, take down all the trees before we could start construction. I'd say about 90% of the houses that we build involve a tear down. And most of them are houses that were built in the early 1900s. And people were really buying the lot, for the view, as you guys can see. So tear the house down, clear the lot. And we bring in a lot of crushed stone for the driveway so that trucks and machines aren't sinking in the dirt. Why don't we take a walk around? We'll go to the basement and talk about the slab and some site work and drainage. On our way around the house, you're going to see PVC pipe sticking up from a lot of the corners. One there, one here. They're at every corner of the house. This is so once our gutters go on, gutters are going to be in every corner. One there, one there, one there. And that's to catch the runoff of the water from the roof. So as that water comes down, it's going to go into your gutter, into your dry well, the downspout. It's going to come across, and I'll show you once we make our way around. It's going to go into a pit. Another thing, you guys are probably wondering what this is against the foundation. This is called Shockwave. It's a 1-inch board. It has an R value of 9, and so the R value is an insulation value. Behind it, instead of tar, we have a rubber coating that's called Marflex. So these two items combined will give the customer and the client a 50-year warranty protection against any water getting in their foundation. We put it on most of our homes whenever we can, especially this close to the water, because you never know what's going to happen. And lots like this, where everything's coming downhill. You'll see too, which actually is part of Rick's job. You'll probably notice this sock right here. It's called a Filtrex sock. It's actually full of hay and mulch pieces. So what this does is any runoff during construction, whether it's dirt or materials, is caught by the sock and won't go into neighbors' yards and won't go off into the water. Make our way around back. So you'll see sonotubes right here, all along the back. Those are 4 feet into the ground with a 2-foot footing at the bottom, which is going to support this deck along the whole back of the house, which will overlook the water, and it'll be about 8 to 9 feet off the ground. So now we're in their walkout basement. So in their walkout basement, they have a bedroom in the front, right here in this corner. And a bathroom and a laundry room. So because the septic system is higher in the basement elevation, we need what's called an ejector pump. So you have your toilet, your shower, your vents, and all your drain work right here. That ejector system is gonna pump that water up into the septic because it's due to gravity. Obviously, it has to rise. So this is their bathroom, and all of this plumbing was done before the concrete slab went in to make sure all the drains went in the right location, to make sure we knew where everything was. Because if doing it after the fact is quite costly. So this is where preparing and being organized and knowing the product you're building comes in handy. This is your slab. You'll see these cuts, these saw cuts all down it, which I'm sure most of you have in your basements at home. What that is, it's a control joint. So houses move. They're going to move with the weather. They're going to move with earth. They move. What these control joints are going to do, the expansion will let them contract. So now we can dictate where the slab moves instead of just not doing any cuts, and you're going to end up with random cracks in your floor. That square over here, we always prep our houses these days for sump pumps. You just never know in the future where the water level is going to be. So we put sump pumps in. So we're going to put a sump pump in here. It's going to drain up and out of the house. So that's your slab. These are going to be your outside your foundation walls, framing walls we talked about. And this is a concrete wall that's holding back the ground in the front of the house. So your slabs in.
Matt, you're doing a great job. I don't mean to interrupt, but you have about 2 minutes left. So unless you want to wrap up what you're saying, but we have a few questions for you.
Yeah, so they're framing right now. So after framing, they're gonna, like we said, talk about do their exterior walls, the roof, the windows, the doors, the trim, and then we have the roofer come in, the sidwaller come in, and actually who you're gonna speak with, Ben, later on, he's gonna take you kind of from there on and show you how the rest of the house is constructed.
Great, thank you, Matt. We have a few questions from our Mashpee High School students. Has it been difficult getting resources during COVID, and has this affected your business?
Yes. So, for example, we used to get windows in 4 weeks. Now windows are taking about 8 to 10 weeks. Appliances have longer lead times. Cabinets have longer lead times. So typically what we're doing right now is we won't start a remodel or a home until windows are into the supplier, appliances are in, kitchen cabinets are in, because the last thing you want to do is start a project and be at a standstill. But this is where organization comes in, and you've got to be organized in order to run a successful business and to keep not only myself, but my team and my employees, moving.
Great, thank you. And one last question. Can you give an estimate on what it costs to build a home of this size?
So if you want to build a home, you should, a new house these days is costing around $300 a square foot. Not just livable, but you have your garages, your decks. So this house, for example, all tied in, this house is about 1.3. But there's a lot that goes into a house. You have your septic system, if you're not going to have town water, you have your well. Maybe you're tearing down an existing house. That has a dollar value to it. So it's hard to put a set price on a house anytime these days because there's so many things that come involved with it. This site has conservation work, the dollar value to that. So every project has significant things that can go into it.
Great, thank you.
Matt, you did an awesome job. It was really fun exploring your job site. Thanks so much for sharing it with us, and thanks for building me a beautiful house. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll send you the bill.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks for everything.
You're welcome.
And now we'll jump over to April Ducott with Cape Associates.
Hi, everyone. I'm April. Just wanted to take a minute to thank Chris and Samantha and Kara with MassHire for putting this together and inviting me to participate. Things look a little bit different this year, but I'm glad we could still make it work. I just wanted to stop for a second and send a shout out to all the teachers. Thank you for doing your work this year. This has been huge, a huge, crazy year. I'm thankful I've got 2 kids in school, and I'm glad that you guys are keeping it going for us, so that we can continue to do our job during the day. And, you know, so, you know, last night I took some time to kind of reflect on my journey to how I got here. And a big part of that was high school. So we called ourselves tech rats. I was a tech student. And I was thinking about all of the specific events that we did in high school, and how when, you know, the experiences we had playing sports and hanging out with friends, and, you know, driving around my boring town, trying to stay out of trouble. And most importantly, making connections, FaceTime connections, real connections with my peers. And a lot of that shaped who I am today. And as I was thinking that through, I couldn't help but imagine what you as the students have felt this past year, and how hard that must be. And I try to imagine being in your shoes. And I just wanted to say that in my mind, there's 2 demographics that got hit the hardest on the last year or so. And it's been the elderly population. They haven't been able to, you know, see their kids, their grandkids. It's been really tough for them. And the isolation, I'm sure, has just been, you know, just horrible. The other demographic that I think has been hit the hardest is high school students. You guys are, you know, preparing your world to jump into this crazy world. And, you know, I feel that maybe some of you feel that some experiences have been taken away from you. And I feel that. And I think the biggest thing for me is that as you're trying to prepare yourself for this new crazy world, I think that you're going to have the upper hand. You are going to show the rest of the world resilience and adaptability. And if anything to take from this somewhat negative world we've been living in is that there are a lot of positives that come with it. And I just want to give a shout out to you for all the hard work you've done. You guys keep it up. We're really proud of you. And, you know, I just hope that this year can settle down a little bit and you guys can have a little bit more normalcy in your life. So that, you know, this is an incredible industry. It's proved that just this last year, we are considered essential. We worked our butts off through it all. And if you're heading into the construction field in any avenue, this has proven to us that we're essential. We're important people of this world. So if this is where you're headed, keep it up, because you're in dire need. We have a lot of work out there, and we need help. So keep it up. So who am I? I'm April Ducott. I am a senior project manager for Cape Associates. We're one of the larger builders on the Cape. We employ about 125 full-time staff through the year. I'm a senior project manager, and I run one of the 3 offices that we have. Our main hub is in Eastham, where everything started. 50 years. We just celebrated that on April 1st. So really exciting to work for a company that's been doing this for a while. We have 2 other offices, one in Yarmouth. And again, like I said, I am based out of the Chatham office. And, you know, we do work all over the Cape and a little bit over the bridge as well. So we, as a general contractor, have a lot of carpenters that work for us, assistant project managers like myself, administrative assistants, accountants, marketing managers, designers, cabinet makers, painters. We have a lot of people that work for us. We just started to diversify and actually bring in some full-time electricians and plumbers and HVAC to try to keep up with the demand and the fact that everyone's pretty much spread too thin out here. So a little bit about my background. I grew up in a tiny little town in northwestern Connecticut, Litchfield County. My family was into buying properties and kind of messing around with them as an investment. And so my parents kind of took advantage of child labor and put us out in the field, you know, taking down horsehair plaster and doing really dirty work. But it ended up being like a really good family bonding experience for us. I took a lot of positive from it. I really enjoyed doing it. My mother was into the design end of things, and my dad was kind of a jack of all trades. I learned a lot from him. And I really liked the experience. So obviously it sparked some interest in me. And like many of you, I got through middle school and I'm like, what am I going to do with my life? And made the hard decision to go to a tech school instead of going to a traditional high school. My other option was to go to we call it the farm school, because I was out in the middle of nowhere. Farming was big. So I went to the tech school. I did carpentry, and I was there, 2 years in the shop doing cabinetry, and then 2 years out in the field, actually constructing houses out and about. I really, really liked it. And so graduation came around and I was a little confused, didn't know where I was headed. Liked carpentry, liked getting dirty and having hands-on and being out in the fields, but kind of knew that I was into something a little bit more and wanted to learn. So I decided to go to college, and I went to Roger Williams University in Rhode Island. And again, by default, I didn't know where my path was headed, but I thought that design was really my option. So I enrolled in architecture. And thankfully, within the first year, I realized that architecture and architects are crazy, and it wasn't for me. Sorry if there's any architects on here, but I admire you. I can't do it. A blank page scares the bejesus out of me. So thankfully, someone that was in my dorm had said, do you know what construction management is? And I said, I have no idea what you're talking about. So there was an engineering department, and I did a tour, and I'll never forget it. I was walking through the building, and there was the engineering shop all set up, and there was a bunch of students in there working, and they were building arches out of masonry, and doing certain different designs to see how the physics of it all worked. And then there was a group doing a slump test on concrete over to the side. And if you don't know what a slump test is, it's just to test the strength of concrete after it's been mixed. And I immediately was like, this is awesome. I want to know more about it. So I switched majors. I went into construction management. It took me a few years to get through it, but I got through it, and got through I was trying my best to graduate, so didn't put too much time or thought into it. But I had a friend of mine who said that there's a lot going on out on the Cape. I'm working for a builder now that's really interested in speaking with you. Went out and spoke to a small company in Chatham, a custom builder, really tiny company, interviewed with them, and they hired me on the spot. So I moved from Rhode Island to the Cape. I'd never visited the Cape before. I'd never been here, and just went for it and made it my home. When I first got here, it was the summertime and things were great and a lot of activity. And then summer ended and winter hit and everyone left. And I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life. I said, what did I do? This place is scary and cold and miserable. But I kept at it, and I really liked what I did because I was working for a small company. I was able to get my hands into everything, from accounting to, being on the job, to cleaning jobs, to chasing materials. And I really, really liked what I did. So I stayed put. And from then, basically started a family. I have 2 kids. I got a dog, a cat, a bearded dragon, 8 chickens, 4 chicks. Got a lot going on in a busy household. So we're here to stay. I love Cape Cod. Cape Cod's awesome. When I was in college, it was, construction management was a big push to go to, commercial and high civil engineering. That's where the money was, going to the big cities. I'm not a city girl, I'm a country girl. So I really, really had an attachment to residential homes. And so I stuck with the residential. And I was with that small company in Chatham for about 6 years. And then about 10 years ago, I moved in with Cape Associates and been with them for 10. And really have been able to accelerate in that position. There's a lot of work out there. And so basically, I'm, a senior project manager. A lot of times when I tell people I'm a project manager, they have no idea what that is. So what it is
I don't mean to cut you off, April, but we have a few questions that we want to get to ask you before your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you so much for that. That was great. I have a question from a student. What is the hardest part about custom design and building?
The hardest part is a lot of times what will happen is a person, a client, a family will come to you and they'll say that we want to do this. And a lot of times there's nothing on paper. There's a lot of things that need to be worked out, ironed out. And a lot of times it's a lot of finger pointing and saying, this is what I want. So the initial process of starting that for them and basically laying out how much it's going to cost them, how long it's going to take, how disruptive it's going to be in their life, what decisions they're going to have to make. That's probably the hardest. A residential and a home is for a family. It's a very intimate process. There's a lot of pieces and parts to it. And I enjoy that piece of it. But there's just a lot of parts that need to be put together to make what they have in their mind become reality. So.
Well, April, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to try and see if we can take questions a little later because I think that there are a few more questions for you. But really appreciate you sharing your fascinating story. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
And so we'll now move on to Stefan Richman with Mid-Cape Home Centers.
Hey, everybody. Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. Like you said, my name is Stefan Richman. I work in Mid-Cape Home Centers and been here a little over 2.5 years. But to back up a bit, I moved to the Cape just at the beginning of high school. And after high school, I wasn't set out to go to college, and I wanted to be outside. Like Chris Lambton, just being outside, getting dirty. I really liked that. And I got into landscaping, and that was just a great experience for me. I did that for a number of years for a local landscape company. And on those jobs, I got to see these new houses getting put together. And it got me thinking, I want to move on to that phase of the project. I want to get into the building end of things. So I ended up signing on with Cape Associates, and I worked with them for about 5 years and got my construction supervisor's license. And I learned a tremendous amount in the industry, and a great company to work for. After an accident on the job site, I just really wasn't able to be in the field anymore. So I transitioned into the planning stage, and again, just continued to learn so much while I was there at Cape Associates for the planning end of things. And that kind of springboarded me into where I am today. But I got into the estimating field. I wanted to come up with the parts and pieces of how everything goes together before the builder actually gets that job site going. So I ended up getting into estimating, and overall, I've been in the estimating field for about 18 years. And it's just been a great experience. And I think one of the other things that Chris Lambton had said was, I'm always learning something new. And that rings true for me as well. I look at plans every day, all day, and no two are the same. And one of the great things about where we live on the Cape is we don't build tract homes. We don't build houses that look the same as your neighbor's house and every other house down the street. We build just a tremendous amount of custom, one-of-a-kind homes that you're not going to see anywhere else in the world. And I think we're all pretty fortunate to have that as a stepping stone in this industry. So getting back a little bit to what I specifically do here at Mid-Cape is in the estimating department, I look at those plans, and nowadays with technology being so amazing, everything is done on the computer. So I'll take a set of plans like Matt York was showing you, and I'll have that loaded right onto my computer. Got a couple of screens, so it's a lot of screen time, and it's very well set up. So I can go through that plan and digitize or take off where their material is needed for that project. And it's all color coded. So at the end of the day, I'm able to sit down with the builder, whoever's going to be on the job site, framing that job, and go through that material that I came up with. And every builder's different. Every builder has their own way to do things. So us here in the estimating department, there's 5 of us at Mid-Cape that do this. We're able to sit down with that framer and go through the project that we worked on for them and make adjustments based on how they actually want to frame it, how they want to build headers or walls or whatever that floor system or wall system, whatever that framing system is, we're able to cater that material takeoff for their specific job. So it's exciting for me. I get to say that I get to go to work and I enjoy what I do, and I enjoy the company that I get to work for. Not a lot of people get to say that. So in your search for what you want to do and where you want to go, that was high on my list. And I've been very fortunate to land in a place that it's been awesome and just very informative along the way. Again, just taking every experience as it comes to you and trying to pick something out and learn something new from it. And I think it's going to really catapult you into an amazing industry that we're in. So long or the short, there you go. Any questions?
Thanks, Stefan. We do have one question for you. What was the most favorite thing about the planning stage? And this is being asked by Bridget from Barnstable High School.
Great question. The planning stage, it's basically what I do every day, all day on a certain level. But I also like to get into drawing some plans as well. And I've found the Google SketchUp format to be a great way to just show some 3D modeling to customers. And it's something that I have 2 kids in high school, and it's something that they're teaching in the high school now. So there's so many different formats for that planning stage that you now as high school students or younger even can get into and start to learn.
Great. And then I see April is still on. Bridget had a question for you, April, since we have a little bit of time. What was the biggest obstacle you had to overcome through your career?
Honestly, I think it started out a little bit earlier when I was trying to navigate what a construction field looked like for me. I didn't know what my options were, and I don't think I had enough people around me in high school to really help guide that. I did figure it out on my own, and a couple of trial and errors. It took me an extra year to get through college because I thought I was doing architecture, and thankfully I did find that out within the first year. But I think not really having a strong presence in that period of my life to really help guide me in the right direction, knowing kind of really what I wanted to do, but didn't even know what the options were. I could go on about some crazy obstacles and everyday experiences that I deal with on a daily, but I think that's kind of the most relevant for this platform and where we are right now.
Great. Well, thank you, April. Thank you, Stefan. Really learned a lot from you both today. And now we'll turn it over to Gail O'Rourke with Whitewood Kitchens.
Can you see me?
We can hear you.
Okay, hang on. Jeez. I can see you. Here we go. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Good morning. All right, everybody sitting at your desk. You've been there an hour. Everybody do a stretch. Wake up. Stop playing with your phone. All that good stuff. I'm Gail O'Rourke. I am owner of Whitewood Kitchens, and I love my job. And let's see, what could I tell you? I've been the owner of this company, Whitewood Kitchens. We have showrooms in Sandwich and Kingston for the last 7.5 years. It's the second company that I've owned. The first company I owned was called Hometown Woodworking. And that was a custom cabinet shop that I ran in Plymouth. I didn't know at 17, 18, 19, even 20 that I would end in the wide world of construction, but I love it. I found out around 30 years old when I bought my house that I was going to stay in a long time. And my husband and I moved in with 3 small kids, and we had no money and no furniture. And I decided I was going to make furniture, and no one was going to stop me. So I made this really funky looking wine rack out of some pine I got at Home Depot, and it came out okay. And then I painted it with black paint, and it looked amazing. So your first item in your tool bag should be a can of black paint, because it covers all your mistakes. And then my career was off and running from there. So I got my first job in a cabinet shop, and mostly I sanded for hours and hours and hours every day. And fast forward, now I own my own company and in kitchen design. And what I do here at Whitewood Kitchens is we don't make cabinets anymore, but we sell cabinets. So we sell cabinets to builders, like Matt York is one of our favorite clients. And we've worked with April over at Cape Associates, and most of the people that are on the Home Builders Association, those are our partners, and yes, our family that we work with. And we supply cabinets, counters, but mostly we supply solutions. So someone like April, she will send me a plan, an architect's plan over, and she'll say, hey, Gail, can you help me out with this kitchen or this house? And I say, of course, absolutely. And then I go on my computer and I'll generate a layout with cabinets, countertops, very similar to the SketchUp that we were talking about. This particular program is called 2020. It's specific to the cabinet industry. So we'll provide a layout like this for your clients. And then they say, we can't really read plans, so we don't really know what you're talking about. And you can't really see it from here, but we'll provide big 3D layouts in color and on the screen in an effort to really show you what you're getting. And this really helps with clients. Here's another one. This really helps with clients to kind of see what they're going to get. So big pictures, and they come to my office and their clients come in and they see they can look, touch, and feel the cabinets and countertops. They can see all the colors and all the exciting new products in the industry, but most of all, they get to understand how their kitchen is going to solve a problem for them. Once we solve their problems for layout, we get into the fun part, which is going to be the door styles, what colors they want to do. We pair that with a countertop. We help them make those selections. We help them identify how much everything's going to cost. We provide hardware, those kind of selections, lighting, all that fun stuff, tile. We talk about all that. And in the end, we would work together with the builder to install a fabulous kitchen like this. So this is our design guide. I'll type in my company website into the chat, and you can download this design guide right on the website, and shows you all the awesome pictures of the kitchens that we've done here on the Cape. And that's pretty amazing. And we can send that to you, because I guarantee I can state with a fact that all of you have kitchens at home, right? Everybody has one. And I bet there's some door falling off, or there's some microwave that's too low for you to get the pot underneath to make your pasta, or the trash can and the recycling. Your mom's asking you all the time, take out the trash, take out the trash. And you say, if I had a bigger trash can, I wouldn't have to take it out all the time. So those are some of the problems that we solve. And you might want an island, those kind of things. So you can download this, or you can email me and get a copy for your parents to get a new kitchen. But even better, if you come into my showroom, and we'll make sure you get the address of it. and let me give you a little dog and pony show about what we do and how we make kitchen solutions happen, then I will give you this amazing t-shirt that actually says Wicked Excellent on it, because I am Wicked Excellent. So if you come by my showroom, ask for Gail and hear my spiel, then I'll give you a t-shirt, because 10 minutes is not enough time to talk about kitchens because they're very, very exciting. Questions?
Gail, you do have a question from Annabella from MashP. What is your favorite kitchen design that you've ever created?
Oh my gosh, there's so many. The last kitchen I did is my favorite, and that's how I always talk about my favorite kitchens. We've done some pretty exciting ones. I've done red counters for the owners of the lobster trap. So when I design kitchens, a lot of what comes through in the presentation of the kitchen, meaning colors and styling, is really a true reflection of the person's personality. So I have a chef right now that I'm designing their personal kitchen for, and I'm really nervous that I'm not going to get all the function in there that she wants. So that's super fun for me. I've designed kitchens that no one has ever in their entire life cooked a meal in. So they're beautiful and glossy and white, and they're never touched. Those are super fun too. So someone, Karen's asking, what's the most unusual request from a client? I literally get them every day. What would that be? What would be? We do a lot of dog and dog stuff. So incorporating dog dish bowls into islands and dog food pullouts, a lot of dog stuff. People are totally, I've done entire dog mud rooms for washing the dog. And then we have to talk about the kind of dog. Is it a big dog? Is it a little dog? How much hair do they have? It's really, people really get into it. So it's super fun. Storage, everyone wants storage. They want storage, even though they have a 10-foot ceiling. They want to be able to sneak something back there, like your Christmas presents and stuff like that.
Sam, do you have a question for Gail from a student?
We do. From a MashP student, we have, what is your favorite part about remodeling?
My favorite part about kitchen design and remodeling is really that moment where you kind of walk in and you're like, wow, this kitchen really doesn't work for this person. And at the end, when you walk in at that last moment, when the counter's being installed and we're all wrapping up, and it gives me chills to just even talking about it, because you walk in, you're like, oh, I did that. Look at this, is amazing. Look at this awesome solution for this client. And really it is quite remarkable, because we get tunnel vision. And I know April will agree with me that you kind of get lost in the details kind of in the moment. You're putting them all together, and at that last reveal at the moment, especially when I go with the photographer to take pictures, I'm like, wait, who did that? That was us. That's amazing. So that is my favorite part is the whole process, like Matt mentioned earlier, really seeing it through from beginning to end. I like that gratification. We don't do outdoor kitchens, but I've done a lot of outdoor kitchen countertops. That would definitely be a Chris Lambton question. I bet in his landscaping company, he does outdoor kitchens, but I do help with the design of them.
Great. Well, I think those are all the questions that we have so far. We'll definitely let you know if there are more questions that pop in, but it's always great hearing from you, Gail, and we always learn so much whenever you participate in this. So thank you so much.
All right, I'm putting my website on the chat, and the showroom address will be on the website for them to come by to get their t-shirt.
Awesome. I'm going to
Thank
grab
you.
one too.
Okay, have a good day.
You're wicked excellent.
Thanks.
And now we'll move on to Samantha Nikula with Encore Construction.
Hi guys, my name is Samantha Nikula, and I am the designer at Encore Construction. Encore Construction has been a local company for 35 years on the Cape. I, like April, started off when I was probably 4 years old picking up nails on job sites with my dad, and my dad is actually the founder of Encore Construction. I was born right here in good old Hightown. And I went off to college in Vermont and came back 4 years later. And my dad approached me and said, you know, I really want you to be in the construction industry. I looked at him like, what? What would I do in the construction industry? Like, I don't want to bang nails. Like, I don't want to do that. So I fought him tooth and nail for 6 years to not be in the industry. Eventually, like he always does, he won me over. And I started 8 years ago at the front desk answering the phones. And over the 8 years, I have done every single job at Encore, and I fell right into the lap of designing about 3 years ago. I have to say, this is definitely not where I thought I would be. I really thought I would be a project manager. But I shortly, kind of like April, she knew she didn't want to be an architect. I knew right away I did not want to be a project manager. That job is very intense. And I don't think I'm quite nice enough to be a project manager, to be honest. You guys have a lot of patience. But what I did fall in love with is working with people. I think that is the best part of our industry as a whole. But what I absolutely love about designing is just working with people, and everybody is different. There is not one kitchen or one house that is the same. So I actually did 18 years of theater at the Harwich Junior Theater, which is now Cape Cod Theater Company. So one of the things I realized doing theater is how to talk with people, and realizing that there's not just one way to approach somebody, that you know, getting to learn what somebody needs in their home or what they want. You really have to be able to listen and kind of put your bias aside and really kind of listen to what they need. And I realized that that was just really kind of fun. I got to meet so many different kind of people. I've met, you know, a variety of characters, as I will say, and really having the ideas like up in the air of like, I want this, or I need this, and seeing it come to fruition on paper, and then seeing it built literally right in front of you is probably the coolest thing that I would have to say about my job. At the end of a project, you know, we walk through the house, and it is really awesome to see all the work that you've created in your head, and you're like, oh, what is it really going to look like? Or how are we going to have this cabinet? Or what kind of detail can we add to make this really like wow and different? And then seeing it in front of you, and then seeing your client's reaction for the first time of like, this is their new home. It's just absolutely remarkable. I've had plenty of clients just start crying, hug you. Oh my God, I love you so much. Like, this is just great. And really seeing the difference you can make in somebody's life with, you know, transforming their home is definitely the best part of the job. I will say that I was a great student. I was a terrible test taker, but I was a straight A student. It took me like 3 tries to pass like the SATs, but you know, just standardized testing is not my thing. I'm much more of like a hands-on person. And what I have to say about this industry is that that's the best part about it. You can come out what we call green, so brand new, come into the industry and really start learning with your hands. And for me, that was the best way that I could learn something. Reading a textbook, it was very boring for me, and I didn't really retain a lot of the information, but being able to be on the job sites with people, learning from the professionals, is definitely sent me flying in this industry. The amount of professionals that I get to work with has definitely brought my level of expertise even further. One of the things that's great about design is that you don't necessarily need to go to college to do that. The National Kitchen and Bath Association has a couple of courses or different levels that you can enter. You can get an associate kitchen and bath degree by having 2 years of experience in the field. And then you can also become a certified master by having about 5 years and then taking 60 hours of courses and passing an exam. So if you think about it, if you graduate from high school, or even start not even graduating, getting in the industry now, by the time, if you're a junior, by the time you graduate, you're going to have that 2 years of experience in a field. And then at that point, you can start to look into getting your associate's kitchen and bath design position. And then from there, you can just, present yourself as a tool to a lot of the industries, or sorry, a lot of the companies in our industry with the experience that you have. And then also being able to take some online courses if you wanted to, to further your education through the National Kitchen Bath Association. I have to say, I also grew up playing The Sims. I don't know if anybody, is The Sims still cool? Like, is that a thing? I'm not sure. But I would play hours, like literally hours, just like geeking out on The Sims. And I have to say that like what I do is like playing a game. It's like Sims. Like I have this area that I have to design and fit all the things that they want. And then I can actually create it. So I think that was kind of like one of the cool things about where I ended up is I look back in my life and I was like, wow, like I had no idea. I was like preparing myself for my future by playing some video games. But yeah, so anyway, so that's kind of my spiel about design. Also the fact that, not needing to go off to college to become a designer. You can, but it's not needed, is also a great avenue for people that just are not sure if college is for you. And even better, I left the Cape and I came running back because I love the Cape. I mean, the ocean that's just my place. And I know winters are hard and I know it can be tough being here year round, but when you get into this kind of group, like the HVAC, the association, I have so many friends and like what we say, extended family, working with Mid-Cape, working right now with Gail on one of our projects. We're working on it together. It's just a great family atmosphere. We all just really build each other up. We're there to support each other. So if you're looking for that network or if you're looking for that family to be a part of, the industry on Cape Cod and remodeling and building is the place to be. Anybody have any kind of questions or comments?
We do have questions for you, Sam. A question from Mashpee student. How long does the design process take?
So again, it kind of depends on what level you want to be in, but I can send in a link what the program is for becoming certified through the National Kitchen and Bath Association. Not all companies may require that. Some of them just want like an entry level that have some kind of, well, it depends. Some companies want entry level, some want senior management levels. So it really kind of depends, I guess, on what job you're going for. But I'll make sure to share that link so somebody can click on that. And it's not scary at all. Like I said, in 2 years of experience, you can have your associates right there.
Great. And if you didn't choose this job, what career path would you have chosen?
I'm an excellent arguer, so I probably would have gone for law school.
Perfect. Thank you, Sam. That was a great presentation. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Sam, for joining us. You were fantastic.
Thanks, Chris.
And now we will move on to Ben LaMora with Lineal Inc. And I believe he is joining us on site.
Yeah, hey Chris, thanks a lot, you guys. My part today is I'm picking up right on after where Matt York left off with his site work and foundation project. We're actually right up the street from Matt, coincidentally. Our projects are looking at the same bay, and it's another beautiful day for being out here. But this, like Matt's, is a teardown project. And I'll go backwards. I'll start real quickly just with how I got to where I'm at in my career. So throughout high school, I really was interested in architecture. By chance, I met an architect who was willing to, take an intern. So I worked as an intern as a part-time job in high school, along with another part-time job, just regular work, and found myself really enjoying it. So I applied to architecture school, went to Syracuse, completed the program there, and then after college, worked for an architect's office and just really enjoyed it. Really was always drawn to the construction side as well. So left that office and worked as a carpenter for a few years and loved it. Just loved being outside. Really loved both sides of the business, the design side and the construction side, and recognized that there's a bit of a need, or there's a niche where it's nice to have the two combined in one office. So in 2000, before my wife and I officially, stopped working on our other jobs and we're full-time in lineal construction. So since then, we've grown it a little bit. We've got a few carpenters and we've got a couple project managers, and we love doing design build projects just like this one that we'll see today. This house is actually, just like all of our projects, part of a huge network of the different trades that we work with. So you heard from Rick Grady earlier. He came to the site early on, met with us, talked about what was feasible, because projects like this on the water, and a lot of our projects on the Cape, they all have really difficult technical aspects, from wind zone, flood zone, conservation requirements, wetland requirements, and all that. So Rick's team did a laser scan survey of the whole property and then started telling us the building envelope that we could work in. So Rick's drawings show a perimeter of the land that's owned, and then show us where we can work on that land. So then we realized we had about, that distance from one corner of the building and that distance from the other corner of the building to fit in, and also fit in the utilities, the water, the sewer, the septic, everything else. So after that phase, we go into design, knowing what's possible. And then this is the result of the design. Our clients said, we want to be connected to the ocean. We want to walk in the front door and feel it. We want to wake up in our bed and see it. And we want to be able to entertain looking at it. And we started with this. So this is where the new front door is going to be. Pardon the mess. So the front door will be right there. And once you walk in, I should take that down, but you get a great expansive view of the ocean. So this is the kitchen and the living room. So what you're looking at is the result of the framing crew that Matt was just showing you at his other job. So the framers, after they finished that PT sill and put on the plywood deck, then they started standing up all the studs and building the walls. So they build the walls on the ground and they tilt them up into place, and that's the structure of your building. What the framers are excellent at, and what's so technical about their job, is they're not just banging nails, putting together just a couple of regular walls. They've got to figure out, the drawings show it, but they've got to figure out how to actually build the structural components. So when you look around, there's different color lumber, right? There's the regular studs, the 2x6s, the 2x4s, and then you've got the steel beam that also is inserted into the structure because it's a tall wall facing the ocean, and it has to be designed for the wind zone requirements. And then you've got this other lumber called LVL. This is a structural wood that's stronger than regular pine and KD, kiln dried wood, is your standard 2x4, 2x6. So you've got the stronger wood, you've got the steel, and they've got to integrate it all together. It's all attached differently. It matters for different reasons, but it's all got to be in the same plane when it's done. It's all got to fit in the walls of the house. And they have to build it plumb, level, and square. So if you put a level on that steel beam, it's perfect, and it really needed to be. So it's really multifaceted that these guys have to work these different pieces together. Now, what you hear in the background, and we can go back out and look at roofing and siding later, but what you're looking at the background or hearing is the siders are nailing the shingles onto the outside of the building. So after the frame is done and the window, we put the roof on, and then we put the windows in, and then the framers put the trim on the windows. And then the siders come in and apply the house wrap for the vapor barrier to make sure that water doesn't get into the building behind the shingles, because when the wind is coming off the ocean, the water will get past the shingles, and then it needs another line of defense. So they install that part. And then once the siding is mostly done, it allows the mechanical trades to come in. The mechanical trades are the plumbers, electricians, HVAC, and then security and audio, if you have those two features as well. So now the guys, and it's nice, it's quiet here today. Yesterday, it depends on the day, but the heating guys, the electricians, the plumbers, it can get a little crowded. So what we do is we make sure to separate everybody out, and they work in different areas at different times. You can have a crew in the basement, you can have a crew in the attic. But the project manager role that April was talking about will be in charge of making sure that the people show up with the information they need, and that they have an area to work, and that they have that they execute it properly. So if the toilet's supposed to be here, if the duct work's supposed to be there, that's what the project manager or site superintendent is supposed to do for part of the process. The steps we're at right now is the plumber is starting to put the pipes in the wall for the toilets and sinks that go everywhere. And this is a pretty technical process. It's not easy to figure it out because he has to work within all the framing that's already done. And there's not always a very easy way to get from point A to point B. So the plumbers get pretty creative, making everything work, but still stay hidden. So what I like about this phase of the job is you get a chance to see what you'll never see and take for granted, because it's actually pretty difficult to fit all the pipes and mechanical systems into the building and not have to be an unfortunate design feature, right? You don't want to have a box in the middle of your kitchen because that's the place that might be. So they've really got to figure it out. The other work that's going on right now is the ductwork. So they're starting to find the best possible path, and this is just one of the boots that's laid out. And again, in trying to conceal it as much as possible, they're getting the best possible path from the air handler, and I'll take you over there, to distribute the air to the rest of the building. So in this case, the crews are working on, we're going to hang the air handler at the garage and then distribute the ductwork off of that all while throughout the building. This specific air handler is called hydronic. So what we're doing is the source of heat is coupled with the boiler in the basement. The boiler is going to get hung on the walls upstairs. Now, the old boilers, from even 15 years ago, but the old boilers in the movies, like the Home Alone in the basement, that giant monster, that doesn't exist anymore. The new boiler is probably smaller than that cardboard box. Super high efficient. A lot of them have, their smart technology. A lot of the appliances in the houses are all smart technology, so that you could use your phone to check the performance, see the efficiency. You can also, with Nest, you've probably seen everything can be controlled by your phone. So you can change the temperature in the house, everything that you want. Up in here, we're going to be installing 4 skylights in about 2 weeks. And these skylights, we designed them and we have them because we want the natural light in the building. But these specific ones are part of the mechanical system. So they also have an app that is going to control their operations, so that when the house is inside, weather forecast is appropriate for what they're trying to do, then these will open automatically and air change the building. So instead of having, we also have a fan to change the air in the building, but you don't want stale air in the building. You don't want the building to leak air, so you build it very tight. All the tape on the outside, all the house wrap, and then on the inside, we're going to fill all the walls with spray foam insulation, which is what those cans are for going around the windows. They bring a huge truck in to fill the bays. But you don't want the air to leak out of the house. But too tight without fresh air also brings its own problems. So what we do is we design, the engineers and the material specifiers design an ERV system, energy recovery ventilation, so that you bring fresh air in all seasons. So building has gotten very technical. It's pretty scientific to make sure that everything works properly, because we've had to adapt a lot in the last 15, 20 years to people living differently in their houses, technology being used differently, materials being more efficient, and air ventilation is a huge part of that. So these skylights have a smart system that will automatically open up if it's not raining and they let air out, as well as a fan would work in the basement. So it's gonna be pretty neat. I can't wait to actually see those in operation, and we'll get the natural light. And specifically, these skylights also have to have a special glass coating to not let too much heat into the building from the sun. So all the components are getting pretty technical. You want to walk back outside and see you can see the signals in action. So after the framers, this is a good chance to see what the framers do. So the framing crew, they do all the big rough construction, but they also do a lot of fine trim construction. A lot of the houses now, basically exterior trim is like fine carpentry. So the framers who built the walls also installed this sill detail, this siding, and the water table below. These products right here are great because these are all composites. So we're not going to have the typical rot issues with these. This is PVC. This is boral, which is a fly ash. It's a leftover material from a bigger process that will end up being like a cement board kind of. And these are all glued and screwed in a special way because they don't move like wood, they move differently. So you have to use special glues, special fasteners. And then once that's done, that looks nice, but you've got to flash it to make sure water doesn't get in. So the framers applied the house wrap here, and then another layer of flashing tape over the seams of the windows. So this flashing tape goes right up the side of the window. So if water gets past this trim, it gets on the siding flashing and then down and then out over the water sill. And in fact, the flashing will go on here too. There's even another level of flashing. This is metal flashing behind the shingles, so that any water that comes down between the shingles ends up on this flashing and down over the face of the building. So it's a lot of different pieces and parts that take a huge network of people, from the project managers overseeing the work, to the material suppliers that helped us select the materials, to all the professional engineers that you don't even see that worked in the background to get it ready for permit. So that's a good tour of the outside.
It's a beautiful house, Ben. We actually have a few questions for you in the
Great.
chat, if you have a minute.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so we have a question from Austin over in Sturgis. How much would it cost to build a house of that size next to the water?
Geez, same, almost the same as Matt. This one I think is a little bigger than Matt's. So, you know, the big houses on the water are, you know, over $1 million and quickly getting to 2 million. Houses have gotten more expensive in the last few years, for sure.
And then Natalie has a question for you. She wants to know what the project timeline is.
Typically a year. So if everything's going great, you can be done in 11 months. You know, if everything's smooth and all the selections are done. And if there's major changes in the middle, it can go 12, 13 months. But this building should be done in a year. The project total, start to finish, from breaking ground. Now, ahead of that is a few months, 6 months at least, probably, in many cases, of permitting, design, and site engineering.
And so Jared asked a similar question, but I wonder if you could kind of extend on from start to finish, you know, from the permitting process to when you actually build the house. How long does that take total?
Yeah, so the quickest is going to be 1.5 years. I started with these clients in 2018. They contacted me because they were looking at renovating a house that they were trying to buy. So I went with them to look at houses that they were interested in purchasing and advised them, well, we could add an addition. One of the houses, they loved the view, but there wasn't enough bedrooms. Well, we could do an addition for the bedroom. Or they hated the kitchen. Well, we could renovate the kitchen. But they never found the exact house. So after, you know, looking at a bunch, they found this lot that they wanted to build on. And that kind of sets the clock over. So from when they made the property selection, that was in middle of 2019. And then this was at least 6 months in design and then permitting. And then, you know, we had some delays getting the permit because of COVID, because we started as COVID unfolded with getting permits. So town halls were closed, but the town halls quickly adapted to mail-in permits, virtual meetings, but it took a little while. It's a couple months delay.
One last question for you, Ben, from Austin. How much manpower would it take to build a house of that size?
Oh, thousands of hours. So the framing crew was on average 5 people, sometimes 8. That was 3 months, and that's at least 40 hours a week. And then 6 weeks of work from the trades, from the, you know, rough trades. I don't have a number off the top of my head, but got to be tens of thousands of hours. It's a lot of labor.
Great. Well, thank you, Ben. It was great touring the house that you're building. It looks beautiful. Thanks so much for your time. You did a great job.
Yeah, thanks a lot. This is a great event today.
Next, with that, we will turn it over to Donna L. with Donna L. Interior Design.
Good morning, everyone. Ben, that was really exciting to be on the job site because I literally have just come in from 2 job sites this morning and it's only 10:30. So I still feel virtually like I'm still on the job site. So I have had a very storied career of approximately 40 years as an interior designer. I started out as an educator in the high school on Nantucket, way back, a long time ago. And I have since deepened my creativity and going back to school. I wasn't a traditional student. I studied business and education for my first bachelor's degree. And then I went back to school when I was in my early 30s, and I went to Rhode Island School of Design, to RISD in Providence. And I would commute from Nantucket to Providence. And I received my certificate in interior design. And when I finished that, we had just come out of a recession. So I was ready and armed and poised to jump into the full interior design field, meaning on the job site with builders, with architects, and making a lot of money. There's a very honest assessment to being your own entrepreneur. If you have that skill innately, and that's a really important value that I'd like to mention, to know yourself and to really understand your sense of self in terms of your passion for the design program, because there's so many facets to it. You can go into construction, to being a construction supervisor, to being a project manager. You can go into commercial, residential, hospitality, and healthcare. You can even be both a successful realtor and a designer, sell your house and design their interiors. Today, people who are graphic designers turn into interior designers. You can study interior architecture and really pick your own menu. If you have an entrepreneurial spirit, which I've always had, I have never worked for any designer in my life. I have always had my own business, started my career in my early 30s after I left teaching. And I have to say it was a very lucrative, promising, independent avenue. There were a lot of, of course, challenges and learning blocks, but if you have that spirit and that business sense about you, if that's innately part of you and you study that as you leave high school, I urge you to get into being a mentee and seek out another interior designer. I have been a mentor for approximately 30 years. I've probably mentored about 12 young women and who are extremely happy and successful in their field today. Get involved now. Don't wait. Explore other design firms and inquire about coming in as an intern in the summer or on weekends. You can learn so much and get such valuable insight, because design schools don't teach the business part of design. I think Parsons School and RISD have a couple business classes, but it's something that you're going to have to acquire if you do go into your own business. The very best part of my job, and I don't consider it a job, it's an extension of my creativity. I operated a upholstery and drapery workroom for 15 years and had 13 employees. I think what's really the most exciting part of my job is collaborating with the clients, with the architects, with all the subcontractors, the various parts of the structure process. I start with the architect. I start at ground level. I climb ladders to get orientations of where house siding should be. I've really have become a very interactive part of the entire design process. It's extremely enjoyable. It's very engaging. You transform the lives of many people. You affect their health, their wealth, their safety, their security in their homes. The interior part is exhilarating. I have another team who handles that. I will direct them as design director. The finishes to the insides of the house that Bill just took you on, that's very exciting. You get to pick out different materials for the walls, niches, built-ins, framing, casings, jams, window treatments. You think ahead of the builder so that when the builder turns around and says to you, now, what about that lighting? And what about that wall? And what size shiplap are we doing? I turn around and hand them the schedule. So it looks glamorous, but it's really a lot of work. But you learn that as you go along, and you actually work in tandem with your builders and your contractors, and it just becomes a win-win for everybody. So I think that's about what I want to say. Just really investigate your course of study. Your education, I can't speak enough to it. I'm very serious. If you want to reach out to me, I am so available. I'm Donna at DonnaL.com, and I would be most happy to listen and to lead you into where your options are, because there's a lot of options out there today.
So Donna L., thank you so much. You were fascinating. I've learned so much about you. And just so everyone's aware, I did put Donna's email address in the chat, but we do have a few questions for you that have come in. So one question is from Natalie. What do you enjoy most about doing what you do?
Natalie, thank you. It's the collaboration, the spirit of collaborating with all my people and walking onto a job site when there's just the decking done, the foundation's in, it's a big dirty mess, and the decking's in and the walls are going up, the framing and the windows are cut out and the sliding doors and the French doors are cut out. And I stand there and I get to take it all in and I get to start my creative engine right there on the job sites. It's exhilarating.
Another question that came in, how do you manage the project budget?
We start, well, it's all through spreadsheet. Every month we update the client's expenses, the overages. I always build in for contingencies because I know through experience that the budgets are going to go anywhere from 20 to 40% over until it gets to the point where a member of the team will see that it's going over, and for good reasons. Things change in the field, clients adapt, clients see more than my plans have exposed to them. So when the budget starts to creep up, someone from the team will then put the brakes on and we then stop. But how I manage it is every month they get their expenses. We start out with a budget. I do a high end and I do a middle end. I don't work with low end clients. I work with very high end clients, the 1%ers on Nantucket and on the Cape. But there are absolute contingencies built in so that there aren't surprises to one of the financial members of the team.
So Donna, I believe we have time for one last question. Sam, did you have a question for Mashpee?
I do. We have, is it challenging to design a home when your client doesn't have similar interests?
When your client doesn't have similar interests, you mean to mine?
Yes.
No. Well, it's challenging and it's not, because we communicate at the very beginning. They send inspiration boards through Instagram or Pinterest. So I am channeling their energy. I'm channeling their desires. No, I don't design for me. I truly match that up. But that's a very important part of what I do. So great question. No, it's not a challenge, but it's critical that the client and the designer communicate.
Donna, you were fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we will now transition, last but certainly not least, Natascha, Batchelor of Davey Tree.
Hi. Can we see and hear me?
Sure can.
Okay, I'm Natascha from the Davey Tree Expert Company. I want to quickly introduce you to, this is Arby, the arborist monkey. And for my background today, he's going to be working in the bucket truck on this dawn redwood tree. Arby's a little short, so his head's hidden. He's going to work on that, and we're going to ask him to be quiet today while he's working on that. So he's going to use an electric chainsaw, which is a super cool new industry tool. Arby's not wearing his proper PPE, but that's okay because he's a plastic monkey. Normally he'd be wearing a hard hat and wearing a fall arrest protection and safety glasses. So we're gonna let Arby get away with that. OSHA won't mind because he's plastic. So I've been in the industry, well, I've been working for Davey Tree for 24 years come June. I went to college at UMass for engineering. So I took an exam, I don't know, in 8th grade, and they said, you'd be a great engineer. And I was like, great, I love math, I love science. So I'm gonna do that. So I went to college, first semester, a women in engineering program. And all due respect to Rick Grady, I listened to some engineers talk about what they do, and I went, oh my goodness, I've made a huge mistake. So fortunately, the engineering program said you have to pick a major in order to get out of our school. And I walked into Holdsworth Hall out at UMass and forestry. I grew up in a woodsy area and I just love being outside. So I was like, great, I'm gonna be a forester, which is all good and well. Foresters are hugely important to our world, and but they spend their days in the back 40 all by themselves and with bears and tents and nobody around, and that was not for me. So again, I walked into Holdsworth Hall and there was a display about work with people. At the time, you know, earn up to $30,000 a year, which is, you know, that's a while ago, and still deal with trees. So here I am. I'm an arborist. I'm very thankful to UMass for letting me switch my major again into urban forestry, and I haven't looked back. I graduated college in 1997. I started working for Davey Tree, and I have not regretted 1 minute of it. It is the best profession as far as I'm concerned in the world. I literally, for my small part, I deal with the lungs of the world. So if you'd ask me, arborists are heroes. You guys are all on a computer right now. We're dealing with power, and arborists are an integral part of keeping our electricity going. I would challenge you to go through a week, much less a day, and not see arborists out doing work so that we can live and do what we do day to day, keep the power running. I like to tell people that we help them deal with their outdoor green assets. So we're making sure things aren't falling down on your heads. We're keeping the roadsides cleared. We're improving the beauty of your property. So on a couple of those job sites, the great vistas, some of what I get to do is we get to help prune those trees and prune those shrubs so that they can keep that vista. They can still see that view of the water. And arboriculture is extremely varied. So we have actual engineers in our company that will work with electrical systems to help maintain their designs and the trees around those designs for the power grid. We have people who work with wetlands to do wetlands restoration. So in our company, and Davey's a big company, we're nationwide, we've actually reclaimed streams that have gone dry. So we've gone through and redesigned it and so that it flows again, so that there's wetlands credits for companies that need to build on properties. We work from Hawaii to Maine, and there's trees everywhere. It's a renewable resource. Trees are the coolest thing on the planet. Trees are the oldest organisms on the planet, and they're the largest organisms on the planet. There's nothing that a tree doesn't do in its lifespan. We breathe because of trees. They provide beauty. If you've ever been in a city and there's no green space, it's kind of just dark and not appealing to me, at least. When I go to a city, I look for green space. And you know, you think about New York City, It's this huge city in the state, and they understood the importance of green space. And you have Central Park, and that was designed into the city because green spaces are incredibly important to us as people for our health, in that we need them to breathe, but also for our mental health. It's been proven that if you're in a hospital bed and there's greenery around you, you're going to actually recover better. So I get to deal with all of that every day and how trees affect our lives. And it's just the best thing. I like to tell people the worst thing that you can do is drive behind an arborist, because we're not looking at the road. We're actually looking at all the trees on the side of the road. It can be pretty dangerous, and we don't do it on purpose. It's just that as arborists, if you're going to do what we do, you've got to love trees. And I can't drive by a tree and not prune it in my head. It's a lot of fun. It's hard work, but it's really rewarding. Fortunately for what I do, we get to go back to properties year after year. And I've literally had trees that we've planted as a 8-foot tree, and I've walked back onto the property 8 to 10 years later. I've got a lot of things in my mind, so I'm not thinking, and I'm going, where is that tree? And then I go, oh, right, that's that tree. I get to see things grow from a tiny little thing to 50, 60 feet tall. Again, being in the industry as long as I have been, it's just a fantastic thing. So if you like to be outside, if you're one of those people who just is always looking out the window and going, gosh, it's a beautiful day out there, or even if you're one of those people, it's snowing out and you're watching the snow fall on the branches of the trees, it's a really great opportunity as a career for you. And again, I've been with the company for 24 years, and my intention is to retire with the company. I started out in the field. I went into sales. I went into management. The company was good enough to let me go back into sales. So I'm just thrilled with what I do. The people that I work with are amazing. The arboriculture industry is one of those ones where we get together and, we'll have 175 arborists in a meeting, at a dinner meeting, and we're all just sharing, like, how do you deal with this thing? Or, what kind of chipper are you using? What saws are you using? This saw's not working for me. What have you guys gone to? What kind of equipment's coming down the line? How do you deal with clients when they say this kind of thing? We're collaborating. We're all in competition, but we're also feeding off of each other. And it's one of those things where you're constantly learning. It takes 2 years to make a good climbing arborist. It takes a lifetime to become an excellent one. If you meet an arborist and says, I haven't learned anything new this year, they're not paying attention. So that's me. That's what I do. Are there any questions?
Thank you so much, Natascha. We do have some questions for you. We have a question from Austin from Sturgis. What is the most dangerous part of your job?
Any part of any job can be dangerous. So the important thing for us is we do pre-job briefings. We're inspecting our job site and the trees that we're going to be working on, and we're doing everything we can to mitigate that risk. So the dangerous part would be not planning and not following safety protocols. Other than that, it doesn't have to be dangerous. One of the things that we've learned is that the things that happen with trees, it's not our fault. So it's not our responsibility to make it happen for the client in their budget. If it's not possible to do it safely without bringing in something like, say, a crane, we're not doing that job.
Well, thank you, Natascha. And with that, we are approaching 11 o'clock. So we stuck to 2 hours, which is great. And I just want to thank all of the panelists who took time out of their workday to join us today. All of you were absolutely fantastic. I learned so much from you all, as I'm sure the rest of the students did too. I also want to thank the students and the teachers for taking time out of your day to join us today. And lastly, and most importantly, I want to thank MassHire Cape Cod Workforce Development Board for partnering with the Home Builders and Remodelers Association of Cape Cod and making this event possible today, as well as the committee who helped organize this. We spent a lot of time on it. So I'm hopeful that everyone got a lot from it. I know I did. Lastly, in the chat, I'm going to put in our website information as well as an email address. So our website is capecodbuilders.org if you want to learn more about our workforce development efforts. And also, if you're interested in joining the industry, we'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to email us at admin@capecodbuilders.org to send us your resume and area of interest in the industry. And hopefully we can try and help you either find employment after high school or even, part-time employment during the summer. So thank you all so much. A round of applause for our amazing panelists today. Everyone did such a fantastic job. Thank you for joining us, and we look forward to hearing from you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.